So before I introduce our first speaker, let me introduce you a little bit to our National Marine Sanctuaries and the foundation that supports them. Everybody knows our national parks: Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Yosemite. Right here in New York, you also know nationally designated cultural landmarks: Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, Hyde Park, Sagamore Hill. Ken Burns talked about national parks as America's best idea. But when you turn seaward, you come to America's best kept secret. Our national marine sanctuaries are the best that the American ocean represents. These are places that are designated and protected by Congress and by the federal government for what they offer our country and what they offer the world in terms of cultural and natural resources. They're the places that you would expect to find as national marine sanctuaries. They're the places you know: Florida Keys, Monterey Bay, the waters off Cape Cod, waters off of the Hawaiian Islands, in the Great Lakes, in the Gulf of Mexico. The very first National Marine Sanctuary was something we all learned about in high school. The USS Monitor, the shipwreck of the first ironclad, the first sanctuary designated by Congress. But our National Marine Sanctuaries are more than just places under the sea. They are living classrooms. They are open research laboratories. They are recreational destinations. National Marine Sanctuaries are the places that connect Americans to our ocean. They're the places that bring the ocean into our daily lives. And the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation supports the sanctuaries and supports the programs that they run, similar to Ocean for Life. We do it through public-private partnerships, we do it through advocacy, we do it through fundraising, we do it through awareness, education, and research. In an era of shrinking public budgets but growing public needs, the work that we do is more important than ever. And in an era of increasingly complex challenges facing society and the environment, we need to find ever more innovative solutions. Ocean for Life is one such solution. And as you learn tonight, Ocean for Life is unique, it's successful, and it's necessary. It's unique in the way it combines conservation and culture through the ocean. It's successful in the profound impact that it's had on the students who've gone through the program. And it's necessary for all the good that we as a society try to accomplish in this world. One person who understands this better than anybody is the newest trustee of the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation. Richard Ben-Veniste is an individual who throughout his career has crossed the bridge between public sector and private sector. And he knows the importance of building strong bridges between the two. Many of us know Richard as one of the nation's foremost talented and well-respected lawyers. But I'm not sure that many of you know Richard is also an extraordinarily avid and enthusiastic scuba diver. And his wife says that he enjoys being under the water more than above the water. I'll leave the rest of you to corroborate that. So the foundation is really thrilled that Richard accepted our invitation to join the board, and he'll apply his expertise, his enthusiasm, and his experience to our national marine sanctuaries. So ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome our newest trustee, Richard Ben-Veniste.
Thank you very much, Jason. I'll be short. So those of you in the back know someone is speaking here, but you won't have that problem when our next speaker takes the podium. The 9/11 Commission, chaired by Tom Kean, shocked the political establishment and the pundit class in Washington by issuing a unanimous final report in July of 2004. With partisanship approaching its zenith in an election year, how was it that a commission comprised of 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats were able to reach agreement on a comprehensive report without a word of dissent? Under Tom's extraordinary leadership, we recognize that unless the Commission could insulate itself from the partisan rhetoric that has for so long poisoned the national political environment, our efforts to investigate the facts leading up to 9/11 and make recommendations based on those facts to make our country more secure would count for little. That the opposite proved to be the case, with our report and recommendations receiving near universal acclaim and acceptance, is largely a tribute to Tom Kean's vision and leadership. It was my immense good fortune to be associated with Tom as a member of that commission. As a two-term governor, I see that John Lehman is here, our former colleague and former Secretary of the Navy, and who served with me and under Tom on the commission. I'm sure he will endorse everything I've said about Tom and more. As a two-term governor of New Jersey, re-elected by the largest margin in New Jersey's history, Governor Kean championed environmental programs to help reverse and remediate what was a two-century history of New Jersey's despoiling its rivers and wetlands. And that was one of the reasons for his immense popularity and the extraordinary confidence the voters of New Jersey had in him, in re-electing him and in regarding him with the continued very high esteem in which he is held. When I explain the origin of the Ocean for Life program and its connection to the tragedy of 9/11 and its embrace of the Commission's recommendation to provide educational outreach to students from Middle Eastern countries in a program focused on ocean connectivity, Tom immediately agreed to lend his support and to speak here tonight. So with great enthusiasm and affection, I give you Governor Tom Kean, a great American, and my very favorite Republican.
Richard, thank you very much. You know, that was such an extraordinary experience, being chairman of the 9/11 Commission. And the thing that made it successful was not the guy who presided over meetings, but these were really extraordinary people who were appointed by both parties. And I'll tell you, Richard Ben-Veniste, he will always be remembered by every witness we ever had as the toughest question. If you really want to know the facts about anything, get Richard to ask the questions, because he doesn't allow dodging. And by the way, that includes the President of the United States at the time. But Richard's extraordinary, and I thank you very much. And his support for this organization has been meaningful as everything else that Richard does. And I'm delighted to see John Lehman here. You know, John was Secretary of the Navy in addition to everything else. But he again was about, you were probably one of the 2 or 3 best experts on intelligence before we ever started. And the kind of intelligence reform we were able to accomplish, a lot of it comes because of John's work. He's, again, an extraordinary human being, and it's wonderful, John, to have you here also. And let me say one more thing before I start. There's another extraordinary person here, 2 of them. I don't know if you know the names, Mary and Frank Fetchit, but Mary is the head of an organization called the Voices of 9/11. These are the families. These are the extraordinary amount of people who lobbied the bill through, took care of the other families, tried to make sure they were helped, and never ever stopped. Mary and Frank are still working. for those families. The families of 9/11, after what they suffered, are the most extraordinary people I've ever worked with. And Mary, wonderful. Yeah, this all happened. 19 people came into the country. They came in illegally and did damage to the United States greater than that was accomplished at Pearl Harbor. First attack on American soil since the War of 1812. Changed everything. Changed everything that we did. And our job that we were given as commissioners, 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats, was simply, first of all, to tell the full story. Answer the unanswered questions. How did this happen? How did it ever happen? They fooled or got around every single protection the United States government offered its citizens. They got around every single one in order to do that terrible damage. And the second thing we were asked to do is make recommendations. What went wrong and how do you fix it? What can we do to make sure, best of our ability, this doesn't happen again? And we made 41 recommendations. And the ones that got publicity and the ones that were talked about were governmental change, the largest reorganization of intelligence in the history of the country, that kind of thing. A number of those recommendations, most of them implemented in one way or another. But there was part of the report which didn't really achieve the attention that I think a lot of us hoped it would. And that was the part on policy. Foreign policy, foreign aid, how it should be used, how we should change, how our values should be part of what we do in this country and when we do things in other countries. It struck us at the time, we put it in the report, that in most of the Muslim countries, after American aid and American military aid, 15 to 20% of the people at most had good feelings about the United States, including in Egypt, which is our second largest recipient of American aid, including Indonesia, the largest Muslim country in the world. So we knew you had to do something different. Had to make friends in a different way. And one thing I did notice after our vote a couple of years later, remember the tsunami? And that terrible tsunami in that part of the world and around Indonesia. And the American military brought aid and food. And then George Bush with Bill Clinton came together and helped distribute the aid. They took a poll in Indonesia about 6 months afterwards. You know what? In that country where American popularity had been 15%, it was now close to 70%. It was a different kind of policy. And by the way, a policy that's a lot cheaper than war. It really is. Now, this is what kind of thing we're talking about tonight. We're talking about something to do with youth. We're trying to bring people together. We're trying to make friends between people who come from different cultures in different parts of the world. And we're trying to do it around the most important issue, one of the most important issues facing us. And we learned, scientists told us, we came from the ocean. Life came from the ocean. Scientists tell us that. The other thing scientists tell us is that we are destroying the ocean, bit by bit. That we are destroying species of fish, one after another. That we are putting pollutants in that living forms can't survive with. And we are destroying the place that we all came from. And we also know that if we destroy the oceans, we destroy life, we destroy ourselves. So that's why this Oceans program, Oceans for Life, is so very, very important. Because there's 2 things. First of all, it brings people from different cultures together, allows them to work together, allows them to learn together, allows them to become friends which may last a lifetime. And secondly, you're learning about the ocean, how important it is, how important it is to preserve it, how important it is to make sure that we pass it on to our children and our grandchildren. Nothing really is that important. And a program like Oceans for Life does exactly that, and I thank all of you who are doing it, and I thank all of you who hopefully will support it. Thank you.